All right. Hi, real life runners. We are here today. We have a special guest with us on the podcast today. We are going to be talking with Beckie Gacki, who is a real life runner with a very interesting backstory. It's a story of resilience. It's a story of life kind of throwing you a curveball and figuring out what to do with it, which all of us have experienced at some point in our lives and some point in our running journey, I'm sure. So I'm really excited to talk to you today, Beckie. And I'm really looking forward to what we're going to cover on the podcast today. So welcome, Beckie, to the Real Life Runners podcast.
Well, Angie, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here, having the opportunity to both share my story and discuss my business just a little bit and how my journey led me here through my fitness and health background. And I'm very excited about this conversation.
One of the things that I wanted to point out about what you were saying before too, to kind of help our listeners relate a little bit more to this too, is just, I wanted to highlight one more time that loss of identity, because I think that this is something that all of us can go through on some sort of level, whether it's a macro level like you did or a micro level. Like, I think that, as a mom, I think a lot of moms can relate to me when I say that there is a sense of that loss of identity once we become a mother. It's like we gain a new identity. We gain this identity of mother, but for a lot of us, there's also a loss of the person that we were before we became a mother and how we used to prioritize ourselves and how we used to prioritize health and fitness, right? Because motherhood, though people wouldn't necessarily think of it as traumatic, it is a complete upheaval of everything that your life looked like beforehand, right? And I think, or, fatherhood as well. To a different degree. But when you become a parent, there is that sense of like, okay, I have this new identity and I had this old identity that is really no longer applicable. And how do I kind of bring these two things together? Maybe before I had kids, I was this fit and healthy person, but now I'm like running my kids all over and I'm not eating healthy and I'm not exercising well. So, it doesn't have to be an event as traumatic as a bike injury like you had, a traumatic brain injury. It can just be, there are lots of times in our lives when things shift and we can kind of lose a part of who we are. And then it's about trying to now redefine that for ourselves. Right. And I think that's like the biggest process that you went through after your injury, right? It's like trying to figure out who is Beckie now.
Well, as I mentioned, I took far too long to figure this out. And this was going through that process, not just building the 5-step building block process that enabled me to get my blood work back into a healthy range, able to get myself back into a healthy weight, and being able, as you said, to accept the athlete that I am today.
Yeah.
Again, it took a long time, but going through this process was the catalyst for me starting my business, Build Your Best You. And through that journey, what I also learned is that before I was able to turn it around and create, as I said, my 5-step building block process, what happened before that is that I'm actually working on my goals to do a TEDx talk on this, and I'll be naming it The Unexpected Turn. But the lesson there is to have faith in your life's path, because you never really know where that unexpected turn in your life will happen and why it led you there. And so what going through and thinking about that process and my entire journey is that there actually ended up being 4 pillars to being able to learn that life lesson, and which are 1, acceptance, 2, getting in line with your new reality, if you will, and being able to take action on it, and holding yourself accountable. Mm-hmm. And so to answer your question, it was the process of acceptance, being able to accept the person I am today, and be thankful and grateful for what I can do because I know that I used to work down by the Shirley Ryan Lab Hospital, which is in downtown Chicago. And I would see people who also suffered severe injuries, and where I'm thankful and grateful for the fact that I can still walk, that I can still run. Maybe I can't compete and I'm not going to win any division titles in any races anymore, but I can still do it. And so acceptance was accepting the athlete I am today.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story with us. It has been a pleasure having you here. And as always, guys, thank you for joining us on this episode of the Real Life Runners podcast. Now get out there and run your life.